There are also others who are involved in the preparation of the ESPs. They are the representatives of trade unions, members of civil society, non-government organizations, and the private sectors. Also, the primary stakeholders of education should be involved in the preparation of ESPs. These are the teachers, parents, the community associations, development partners, and other stakeholders. There are different categories of groups according to their importance and influence in decision making. All need to be consulted to make the plan all-inclusive. The groups for the consultative process may be divided into 4 categories. These are Group 1, which includes people of high importance but low influence. The representatives of civil society, the women and minorities, also the youth, may belong to this category. Group 2 consists of people of high importance and influence. For example, the Office of the Prime Minister, the Ministry of Education, National Planning Committee, and representatives of the main political parties. The third group consists of people of low importance and low influence. These are the stakeholders, religious organizations, universities and educational institutions may belong to this category. Group 4 consists of people of low importance and high influence, such as representatives of minor political parties, private organizations, etc. However, it needs to be noted that the importance and influence of the groups vary from one country to another country. Also, it is very necessary to discuss who should lead the plan preparation process. At times, the planning units of the MOE take the lead. In some instances, the Education for All coordinator may not be from the planning unit of the Ministry of Education. In such a case, the Education for All coordinator takes the lead. In some countries, the educational divisions or units in the planning committees or commissions take the lead. Sometimes, the MOE or the Ministry of Education leads the process and nominates a committee of experts to lead the plan preparation process. In several instances, the education sector plans are prepared by national teams constituted by the government and consisting of elected representatives. The Ministry of Education and other ministries, experts, non-government organizations, international development partners, and other officials appointed by the higher authority. What needs to be ensured is that the plan preparation team works in close alliance with the Ministry of Education and facilitates wider participation to ensure ownership and implementation of the plan. This may make the team large and difficult to manage. A large team may be desirable but may not always be helpful to move fast. Therefore, a good system is to have a large team for consultation and guidance, but a small and a viable team for facilitating the process of consultation and drafting of the document. The plans deal with different subsectors and several theme priority areas. One way of dealing with the issue is to establish technical working groups which will help in preparing reports that feed into the plan. These working groups can be constituted either level-wise for primary, secondary, or higher education as the case may be, or thematically such as financing or management. The existence of a large planning committee, a number of working groups, and an extended consultation process make the planning process complicated and therefore, there is a need to identify a small group of experts to coordinate these activities and prepare the plan document. There is no set formula to be adopted in identifying the expert or team for ESP. The team should include people that are trained and experienced in education planning, statistical analysis, financing, and budgeting procedures. They should also be familiar and at ease with the use of computers and the related software. It is suggested that the committee will constitute a small lead team or the core team headed by the Ministry of Education to facilitate the education planning process, a number of working groups in specified areas, and a large committee involving representatives from different ministries, civil society, political parties, teachers, and many more, to guide the planning process. This may be chaired by the Education Minister. The type and the composition of the committees will also depend on whether or not one is moving towards one national plan document or towards several regional plan documents that lead to a national plan. The former involves mostly consultation and representation of decentralized levels in the national planning process. The latter requires plan preparation at the central and decentralized levels. In any case, the planning involves the commitment of technical experts to carry out statistical analysis at various stages in planning, financial analysts to estimate the final financial requirements, and administrators for preparing implementation plans. The plan preparation process is characterized as follows. Letter A, it is a country-led process. Being a national policy instrument, the education sector plan is first the responsibility of the national government, which has to make the final decision and take the responsibility for committing resources and for its implementation. However, education is one of national interest, and an ESP has to benefit from a participative preparation process. ESPs are most likely to succeed if they are the result of a process led by the government and internalized by all national stakeholders. The second one is, it is a participatory process. The planning process should be accompanied by a policy dialogue that builds consensus on the development of the education system. So meaning, it is a consultative process. It should be a participatory process designed to allow political leaders and technical experts to find a balance between ambitions and constraints, raise awareness, and gain the commitment of a wide range of education stakeholders. The process should involve selected ministries, especially the Ministry of Finance, various levels of education system administration, stakeholders in the education sector, and civil society. Also involved in the planning process are the non-government education providers and international partners. It is important to ensure the participation of a diversity of groups such as urban and rural people and groups suffering from disasters. The involvement of these actors can be through consultations during the plan preparation process and through structured discussions on drafts of the plan document. The Local Education Group, or the LEG, chaired by the Ministry of Education, is a valuable forum for policy dialogue between the government and its development partners. This mechanism will ensure mutual accountability between government and development partners It will also facilitate the processes of appraisal and endorsement of the ESP by the development partners and the partners' commitment to contribute funds for the implementation of the endorsed ESP. Moving on, the main characteristics of the plan preparation process. On number 3, we have a well-organized process. If a participatory process is to run smoothly and involve a wide range of actors, it needs to be well organized and supported by clarity on the roles and responsibilities of these actors, especially the actors who lead and coordinate. The following may be particularly useful. Number 1, a steering committee to oversee and guide the process. This should be composed essentially of senior ministry personnel with the participation of other relevant ministries. For example, these are the people of finance and people of the planning sector, and may be included also are the development partners. A planning committee to coordinate the technical work, including bringing together all ministry directorates and departments. This committee might be led by a chief technical coordinator, generally the director of planning. The secretariat of the committee might be the strategic planning team, which would be responsible for preparing the draft education sector plan. Also, working groups to focus on specific themes or subsectors such as teacher education, adult education, finance, monitoring and evaluation, and gender issues, which might be asked by the planning committee to draft specific sections of the plan. Working groups can be composed of ministry staff and development partners, including the civil society. The fourth characteristic is a capacity development process. Because plan implementation depends on a wide range of actors from the education system administration at all levels from central administration to schools, it is important that capacity at all these levels be addressed. Plan preparation is itself a form of capacity development, making the process of education sector plan preparation as important as the final product. Work on drafting a plan and involvement in consultations are of great value in developing knowledge and strengthening motivation. Capacity development includes setting up problem-solving systems to foster management consistency. Where external technical support is needed, it must be delivered through the government, support national actors and systems, and collaborate with the local education group. Inasmuch as the education sector plan is an integral process of the education system, we must be aware of its different factors, including the time duration and other challenges. A plan preparation process may take from 12 to 24 months, meaning it can be done in 1 to 2 years, depending on several factors, in particular, whether or not a good information base exists and whether this is the first education sector plan to be developed in the country. In situations where a full sector plan cannot be prepared because maybe of the impact of crisis. As for today's situation, we are in the pandemic and all education system is done online or sometimes flexible learning, or does not have to be prepared because of an existing plan is simply being reviewed, as the case may be. The plan preparation process could be much shorter. During the plan preparation, regular consultations with education administration personnel and stakeholders should take place to define and redimension policies, strategies, activities, and targets. For instance, targets may need to be revised after they are tested against available and expected resources. Strategies may need to be thought out again when detailed programs are being developed. Implementation constraints may lead to rethinking targets and programs. The major considerations in plan preparations are political. Political relating to the degree of political buy-in to the plan. Next is capacity. This relates to the effectiveness of education administration and the skills of personnel. Also, it is contextual, including the vulnerability of conflict and or disaster risk, and also financial, which refers to the adequacy and predictability of resources.